life I could have known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold, but things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Time's gone by, I've traded like dirt into clay. I thought my memories would end. One street over's now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. I took a walk one street over from my home, cracked and broken asphalt everywhere. I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I won't forget the lessons that I don't deserve. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I love today.
40 hours of volunteer time on top of the 50 hours.
One street over there's a life I could have known.
But it's all fun.
Things aren't always as they seem.
It's just you're out there gardening with people. Even when you're reading with other people, and you're talking about, your life. And I've made a lot of great friends through the Master Gardener group. Even though I only graduated, I guess it was in spring last year, so it's been almost a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk more about that. So if you do have some, pressing questions, because we're right now, spring is next week.
Yes.
So there's so many things that we should be and could be doing. So if you have those questions, guys, go on our Facebook page and put them in the comment section. Of course, you can watch live on the WSGI page, or also, guys, now you can also go on your phone apps. So that's really cool. So please be sharing this show so that we can get that word out, because there's going to be a lot of great information today. But for right now, let's go into Irish stuff. All right, so tell us about your Irish roots.
Well, I've been doing a lot of genealogy for the past year. It's quite a lot of work. It's one thing to see your family tree on paper that someone's done, 40 years ago. Of course, a lot of things change in 40 years, but the basics of the past don't. Your ancestors don't change. The wonderful Ancestry.com has helped me so much, as well as friends from my DAR group, that's Daughters of the American Revolution, urging me, gently urging me to keep going and keep finding things. So I've gotten back 5 generations, which takes us to right about early 1800s. And I have found that my dad's line goes up and it goes straight to Germany, the border between Germany and France. But all of my dad's ancestors' wives, most of them are from Ireland or their parents are from Ireland.
Oh, wow.
So I've found so much Irish history and heritage and all over Ireland, Northern Ireland and County Cork, and you just name it, everywhere. So that's been pretty exciting because I always knew I had Irish roots, but I never really knew how deep they went.
Oh, yeah.
And so, of course, that gets you down a rabbit hole times 10. You can't help but, hey, but I tried to stay very focused because to get just to the 5 generations that I've hit so far, you have to have proper documentation for the Daughters of the American Revolution. Otherwise, they can't let you in, which I completely understand. So, and basically what that group does is it's a heritage group for Revolutionary War families that have, of course, descendants from the Revolutionary War soldiers or taxpayers or any kind of contribution they made to the war and to making America, which is really, really exciting because, we're all about right now the whole immigration argument. And everybody says, well, your family came in and on and on and on. And I say, well, some of them did, and some of them made this country, which makes me very proud both ways. The Irish heritage, of course, today, everyone's Irish.
Yes, today is the day that everyone is Irish.
But
just a wee bit.
Not a wee bit. Yeah, I know. And it's funny because you suddenly start speaking like a leprechaun and you're kind of going, maybe you ought to, lower that one out. Lower that volume a little bit.
Goodness.
But it's really fun. And my whole life I've known, like I said, a little bit of Irish, especially when I go out in the sun and the freckles hit. And if I could show you a picture, I thought better of it not to bring it in. But I have a picture from my, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and my hair is bright red, my face is freckled, and my skin is never tanning. And growing up in Southern California, that was always kind of, I was always jealous of my friends that could just walk outside and, oh, I'm a tan girl now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not.
That was my mom, actually. She would walk out and just instantly tan.
Yeah. Well, speaking of genealogy, I did your family tree last night and got back as far as 1830s.
Really? Oh my goodness.
And,
what an awesome surprise.
It was very exciting. I was really, really hoping there would be some sort of a connection. Like I hit a vein and it said, hey, we have this Lee Marie's family joins with your family, but hasn't happened yet. And they were about 450 miles apart. So it's
okay. Well, that's still not that far.
No.
It could have been farther.
Yeah. Well, my family fled I shouldn't say fled. It was kind of a flee in the 1750s when my 5 times great-grandfather was 4, I think. His mother actually died on the trip over on the boat. There's so much information out there, y'all. You just have to go dig for it. It's not even hard. My friend Sam Worley, she's also in DAR with me, and she's been a great help. Kim Stansell is another one. They just selflessly give their time, and again, they kind of lead me down these pathways. Like I found this, now you get to go find that. And it's been so exciting because and now doing my friends, I can't believe how easy it is because. Like in your case, your grandfather came from a family of 9.
Wow.
So.
Was that my grandfather or my father?
Your father.
Yeah, because I thought you said it was my father. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He is one of 9.
One of 9 children.
He's kind of like right in the middle, too. So what that gives Ancestry is a whole lot of data from other people doing their family trees and that are linked to yours. It could be, it could be the great-granddaughter of someone like your grandfather, and she just takes this over here, and all of a sudden it's like your father's right there. So it's pretty interesting. So
and then you say like our fathers were only like 6 years apart or something like that.
9.
9. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
and of course, born completely different places. My dad was born in Los Angeles, as was my mother. But what was strange about the finding of this family is again, my parents both were born in Los Angeles, but both their parents were born in Denver, which I didn't know. I mean, I knew my mom had told me once that her grandfather ran a boarding house, somewhere out in Greeley, Colorado, which is just north, I think, of Denver. And I thought, okay, so, you hear that little factoid, but when you can flesh it out with a name and a place and the things that you see, I think I would say the most shocking family thing I found was my grandmother, Bessie, she came from Ireland. And she was according to Kim, one of the most traveled families between the 1800s and, well, 1850s, I think it was, and 1950.
Wow.
She says, I don't think I've ever seen a family move so much because my grandmother came here from Ireland. She landed in Philadelphia and then bebopped her way across the country to Los Angeles. And then there's like a Seattle connection, which I haven't figured out yet why there's so many. But she died 2 years after my grandfather, her husband. Well, I thought it was her husband because it turns out she listed herself as a widow, even though she died 2 years after him. So we're trying to figure that out.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to know because on his death certificate, it has another name listed as his wife. And I'm kind of going, all right, here we go. I'll go down that rabbit hole another time. But yeah, the whole ancestry thing with so many people from Ireland, and they came here and they didn't just, all become Keystone Cops in New York or Boston and they didn't all pour green, whatever into the rivers, but a lot of them did. During the potato famine in the 1850s, it was a 5-year famine, and it was just because of late blight is what we call it now, but it's a water spore, and it affects the potatoes, and the potatoes just end up rotting in the ground. And unfortunately, that spore stays in the ground. So for years, they were still trying to grow the potatoes, and it was just killing them all. So that's what happened there. About a quarter of the population either died or immigrated to the U.S. So now, of the population of Ireland, which I think is around 6 million, there are 32 million here because of all the descendants, people like us. So it's been just fascinating. And I mean, there's so much to learn about your heritage. It's not just a piece of paper. I mean, I pulled up yesterday they give you hints on Ancestry. And this hint comes up about, I might have a new picture of your grandmother or great-grandmother it was. And it was Bessie McGuire. And she looks exactly like my Aunt Ruth.
My goodness.
I gasped because it's her grandmother. And I thought, oh my gosh.
Fun is that? Wow.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it was my Aunt Ruth. It's technically my dad's cousin, but we always called each other Aunt. But her face, I mean, I looked at her and I sent it to my brothers. I said, look at this. Doesn't she look like Ruthie Zell? And they're like, yeah, that looks just like her. So yeah, I mean, the square jaw and the stern eyes. I mean, it was just, you can tell she was a woman that came from Ireland and ended up in Los Angeles. You know what I mean?
Well, that's so fun with all of the, stuff on the internet now, and I know, have you been to the Ancestry room or the genealogy room at the library yet?
I have. I snuck in there one day. You're really supposed to go in there, I guess, by appointment only because of the books. And some of them are just so old. But not since I've been trying to, probably the last 6 months, I haven't been in there. But I really want to go in there now because there is a lot online, but there's nothing like looking at it on paper. And, I don't know if anybody, I didn't realize, I knew that we have a census pretty frequently, but there's a census every year and it goes back to the Constitution because it's required in the Constitution to have a census every year of every person in the country.
I thought now we have it every 10 years, yeah?
It's every 10 years. Did I say every year?
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, every 10 years.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like different.
Gosh, no, that would be a lot of work. So you can go clear back, in the 1830s, and it's basically a microfiche page of a picture of the page of the census. I mean, you can see every person that's lived in the house, and say 1850. Here's the address. Here's who's there. How old they are. What country they're from. What country their parents are from. All of the information is there, so you can kind of go, okay, well, this person was 7 in 1850, and you can confirm that, okay, that is the right, because with my family, of course, almost every one of my grandfathers except for one is named John.
Oh my goodness.
It's John Jacob. It's just this. And I kind of went, oh my gosh. Okay, great. And of course, yeah. And a lot of their wives are Mary or Marian. My daughter's name is Marianne and my sister is Marianne. And I didn't realize how popular that name was in my family until then. So, I'm going with it.
Well, and one thing, if people don't have access to Ancestry.com, they can go and use the libraries because they have it on their computers there.
Yes, for free.
Yes, for free. And you can ask the reference desk there, for help. in getting on that and all that, and how to
Yeah.
maneuver around that.
And there's I haven't been on a Facebook page for Ancestry yet, but there's so much on Google and YouTube. YouTube University. I mean, there's nothing that you can't learn on YouTube. Someone has put it out there. And navigating Ancestry, there's a huge bunch of videos on that. And I've watched a few, and it's definitely opened some doors for me, because when you see a hint, I didn't know what that meant. And now I go, oh, a hint means you can see the census record, you can see pictures. I figured out where most of my family's looks comes from. It's my great-grandfather's wife, not any of my great-grandfathers, but his wife looks just like my dad. And I think I look like my dad, and my brother Chuck looks like dad. But then the other part of the family looks like the Trainer side, which is Ingle Trainer is my whole family line. Another fun fact of my family is my grandparents lived down the street from each other. Big families on either side, of course. They all went to the same high school. And so my grandmother married my grandfather, and her brother married his sister. So everything doubled up, which was, fun. Yeah. You just find so many things that you think, oh, my family's unremarkable. But no, you're going to find some stuff that kind of goes, wow, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's
All
fun.
right, so it's almost 7:20, and so let's do a little bit on St. Patrick's.
All right. Well, lots of myths, lots of folklore, as we might imagine. He did not harbor leprechauns. There are fairies, though, that my friend Sam, her mother, said. She says, oh, there's like something's bugging my hair. And she says, does it feel like there's something tugging at it? And her mother was very Irish, very much into believing the folklore. And she said that whenever you feel a little tug on your hair, it's a fairy telling you they're there. And I thought, oh, that's cute. But the truth about St. Patrick is he was a young lad when he was snatched from his home from Ireland, and he was taken over to England, indentured servitude.
I mean, the other way around.
I'm sorry, you're right, the other way around. He was taken to Ireland.
Because a lot of people think he was born in Ireland, and he was not.
He was not. No, he had a name that I can't even pronounce. Sukat, I think is his last name. So he worked for 6 years as a shepherd boy, basically. And then he was able to leave, but God called him back. And God said, you need to go back to Ireland. Your people need you. You need to lead them. And so reluctantly, he went back. He became a saint. He supposedly drove he didn't become a saint first, of course, that takes hundreds of years, but he drove all the snakes from Ireland, and supposedly they don't have any snakes, which I'd like to verify that one right now, but I think probably because it's cold, not because anybody had a staff and just said, you guys have to go. But it's the whole shamrock thing. He held the shamrock up as the crucifix. I think the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The Trinity, yeah.
It's Holy Trinity.
Yeah, the three leaves.
Yeah,
making up
so
the
that
Trinity.
was why the shamrock is such a representative of St. Patrick's Day. So it's very deeply rooted in religion, which is, I think that is kind of the cool part of it. Speaking with a girlfriend of mine that lives over there, she says, oh yeah, St. Patrick's Day didn't become a thing until you all went to America, with your ancestors came to America. But, we closed the pubs. It was a no drinking day. It was a, kind of a solemn day. And she goes, and then, you all started with the parades and the pouring green dye into the rivers and drinking yourselves silly and having all kinds of strange fun. She said it was just so foreign to us. So that was a completely rebel. And, just like Cinco de Mayo, I think the Irish people here needed some kind of a tie to the old world and home. And, being Irish, that's what they did.
So speaking of some of those traditions, I know that we always had corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day, never without fail. So, we had last Monday was our Tennessee Firearms Association's St. Patrick's Day potluck. So that is what I made. I made sure that we had that there.
Awesome.
But a lot of people brought shepherd pie, which I've never made. Have you made that?
I have not, but my girlfriend Ty, who her mother is also from Ireland. Again, you just keep finding them. She makes shepherd pie, and she made it for us because we had a roast the night before. It's got peas. You take the gravy and whatever beef is left over, and you spread the potatoes on the top, and then you kind of broil it so they're kind of crunchy. And it's delicious.
Yeah, I think we had maybe 3 or 4 different shepherd pies at
Ooh.
the TFA. So they were all different. And I thought, we always have these chili cook-offs. Why don't we have like a shepherd pie cook-off,
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't that be fun?
We'd all be in a food coma in an hour.
But anyway, yeah, and I always remember too that my mom's side was the more Irish side, and so my mom's mom would always send a St. Patrick's Day card, and she was like the only one that I knew that like always, even like if she didn't send a Christmas card that year, whatever, because we lived in different states, she would always send a St. Patrick's Day card, without fail, and I did do that for a while, and I have to say that I haven't done it the last few years, so sorry, Mom. I'll get back to it.
It's a fun tradition because it's something people aren't expecting.
Right.
Despite the fact that we have 32 million Irish descendants here, it's Christmas cards are the thing. Another thing that a girlfriend of mine told me is that on New Year's Eve is when they do the corned beef and cabbage traditional meal. And unfortunately, we didn't touch on what you actually eat for St. Patrick's Day.
Well, I like that idea about corned beef and cabbage on New Year's. I could integrate that as well.
Yes, definitely. I love this stuff.
Yes. Are there any other traditions that your family would do on St. Patrick's? Of course, everybody would wear green. You wouldn't be allowed to leave the house without green.
Right. One thing I'd forgotten until yesterday, chatting with a couple of my Irish descendant friends, is the pinch thing. If you don't wear green, you get pinched. And I was, I forgot all about that. Because, when you're a kid, that's a huge thing. No matter where you live. I don't care what the ethnicities are of your friends or whatever. In your neighborhood, if you didn't wear green, it was just an excuse to go in and pinch somebody. I told you when I got in here, I was kind of like, I literally have like a green t-shirt and this green sweater. So I think it's time to up my game, up my Irish game.
Yeah, I don't think you can get any more Irish than this sweatshirt that I'm wearing right now. And for those of you like Paul Jones who are listening on the radio, I have a Kelly green sweatshirt on, and right across the top of it, it says Irish really big, and then it has a little 3-leaf clover underneath that. So there you go, Paul. All right. And thanks for helping us out, Paul, and telling us how it sounds in radio world. I do appreciate that. Okay. All right. So it's almost 7:30, which means I'm going to have to be doing a break in a second about our sponsor. But before I do that, Miss Maureen, is there anything else on St. Patty's Day that you want to cover before we transfer into our new topic?
One little tidbit is Ireland is still known as the Irish Isle. I know the Emerald Isle, pardon me. Yep. And understandably, it's beautiful over there from pictures I've seen, and I have yet to go. So now that I have all this ancestry and friends there, and I want to go. I want to go see what it's like, but in August.
Yeah, are there certain months to like stay away?
Yeah. Well, it's a lot like San Francisco where it's just foggy and cold and drizzly, and I think that would probably be right about now.
Okay.
Hey, you can't keep it green if it's going to be 90 degrees.
All right. And I'll tell you one thing Maureen definitely has is a green thumb. Because she is fantastic. And I tell you, when you've helped me with our crops, those are just unstoppable. So, yeah.
Hey.
All right, let's go ahead and hear about Barry and Rebecca Richards. And they are big sponsors of One Street Over. They are with Exit Prime Realty. So when you need real estate services, you don't need to call a Nashville company that doesn't know Robertson County. Barry and Rebecca Richards have lived in Robertson County for almost 30 years, and they love serving their friends and neighbors. So whether you are a first-time home buyer or somebody ready to sell their home or farm, Barry and Rebecca Richards can help. So you can see the latest listings and start your search today at sellwithbecky.com. Again, that's sell, S-E-L-L, with W-I-T-H, Becky is BECKY.com, and they can help you out. They are with Exit Prime Realty, and we really appreciate them sponsoring One Street Over. So this is Lee Marie in for U-Turn Laverne, and I'm here all week. And as you can tell, I'm going to have fabulous guests. And one thing that's super fun is I have, I think almost every guest but one, perhaps this week, is going to be, no, two. There's two guests that aren't brand new. But other than that, I've got, two guests every day, and most of them are first-time guests. And so that is always fun for people, especially our regulars who listen, because they get to meet somebody absolutely brand new. So super fun about that. But yes, so I will be here. And again, you can always put up comments in our Facebook link, our feed, which is on WSGI. So if you go to Facebook, our cool little logo, which looks like this. Thank you so much, Terry Morris. This beautiful logo. This is our profile picture on Facebook. And so we do appreciate if you would like this show and share it, please. Especially right now while it's live, that really helps get the word out. And then don't forget, you can also be watching and listening, or I guess just listening on your app as well. All right, so we have been talking about St. Patrick's Day. So if you're just rolling out of bed right now and you're like, "What day is today?" Well, you better put some green on if you don't want to get pinched by people like us, because we're ready to pinch. And it's so funny. Like sometimes when you go in, it's just I like just going into the like Walmart or something on St. Patrick's Day because you can see like which people it could be like maybe like 1/5 of the people or something have green on. You're like, yeah, you're in the club. And then other people are just like they don't care, they didn't know, and I'm like, that's okay. But in my family, like we did not leave the house without green. Matter of fact, I was bummed today. I had these green and white socks and I couldn't find them. I'm like, I gotta go. Like, that's all right. No one's gonna see.
We'll just start passing out little green shamrocks to pin on your clothes.
Yeah, go. So anyways, yes, today is the day, but now we're going to be transitioning because, like I said, Maureen has a green thumb. And I'm so excited that you went through that training, because, I mean, you were good before the training and now you're like, the powerhouse woman.
I have a lot of people to consult with if I have any questions I have. The people here are amazing. I will tell you, if anybody comes here from any other climate, it's a challenge. I never, in Southern California, of course, had to worry about frost dates. That was, holy moly, what an eye-opener. Thank God for Bob Airy.
Oh, yeah. Did you get to catch him on the radio the other day?
I did. That was fun. And I loved the whole rose cutting verbal tutorial. Because
I know. I saw some of my neighbors have already chopped them down. I was like, oh, you weren't listening to WSGI.
Yeah. Mine, I went out and looked at them yesterday and they are just starting to leaf out. So I'm just going to let them go. But yeah, there's so much to learn about so many things. I mean, just the difference between annuals and perennials by climate. A lot of people say, oh, I live in zone 7, so I'm going to have the same exact climate as everybody in zone 7, which is absolutely not the truth.
What zone are we here?
Zone 7.
Okay.
B. But we're so close to the Kentucky border. I always go with a 6 just to be just to be safe.
Okay.
And it doesn't hurt. The thing is, it's just your coldest winter temperature, coldest average winter temperature, which makes a big difference when you're thinking about starting your seeds. I also look at day length and how much supplemental light to give my little seedlings. I just started mine about I don't know. I started some in January, end of January, the really long ones, in jugs, which is my first time doing that. Kind of fun. And they say to do that and just stick it in the snow. And I thought, well, okay. And I did. And so right now I'm waiting for poppies and lavender to pop up. But my wildflowers and catnip have actually started coming up in the jugs, which is exciting. I am worried about disturbing them, but I also have a greenhouse. So when we bought our house, the pile of pieces to make the greenhouse were there. So God bless my husband, Doug, because he helped. Well, he didn't help. He did it. I helped.
Let's do a big shout out to Miracle Man, Douglas.
Yeah, he's definitely the Miracle Man.
Miracle Man, that's right.
Super helpful with anything. It's just, what are the projects this week kind of thing, and we get it done. But having a greenhouse makes a big difference. I have a heater, and we've got ventilation, and I have a little fan in there, and that kind of thing. It all comes together by the time, I don't know, April hits and the frost is gone. I still don't trust it because last year I had a major disaster on my hands with a storm May 8th where it just hailed and flooded. In fact, I was on the phone with you and I'm kind of going, I have to go. The hail and the wind and the rain, it's coming in the house.
Well, I remember you were getting stressed about being the location. I said, you know what? I know another location that would be probably willing to do it. What's it called again? The
Highland Rim?
No. Oh. No, the tour of gardens.
Oh, yeah. That was Martha's song.
Martha's song.
They do an 8-stop tour, and this will be their third year. Well, I was supposed to be a stop on that tour last year, in from May to I think I had like 3 weeks to go.
Mhm.
My garden was decimated. I mean, hail punched holes in all of my viney, squashy things, like, and all the okra was just pounded to the ground. Everything looked like a giant just walked through my garden and poured buckets of water, and it just eroded so much. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, and of course Doug was out of town, so so I had no help, and
If he was in town, he could have stopped it from happening.
he would. Well, he would have at least been like, okay, let's go fix it. I mean, so much of my topsoil, because I didn't know about cover crops, which is something we'll cover in a second,
Mhm.
but so much of my soil just washed down the little tiny bit of a grade that I had.
Mhm.
And I was just kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to recover from this. Well, I remembered, okay, pull yourself together. You've got an entire greenhouse full of stuff that you were going to just give away, which I still had enough to give away to you and to my neighbors, which is great. Thank
excellent.
God for that. So I went out and I just replanted everything. I mean, some of the stuff in the greenhouse wasn't really that big, and I hadn't up potted it, so it hadn't grown very big. So I'm out there planting these little seedlings that are 2 or 3 inches tall. But alas, by July I had tomatoes and okra and everything, and it all's well that ends well. But it was an eye opener, and so I started thinking, okay, what have you learned since you've been here? What did you learn with your, what are you learning in your Master Gardener program? What are your what's in the toolbox? First thing is cover crop. And this year I've had some really bad rains. Yes, 2 days ago we had 4 inches. And I went down there and all of the soil is anchored because all of my cover crops are still in, and they're about 4 or 5 inches tall right now. And they're great. They anchor the soil. They put nitrogen back in the soil. They fluff it. I mean, it's just by the time you actually cut it down. Thank you, Bob, for this information, Mr. Airy. You cut it down inch by inch, and you let that all just compost back into the soil. So when it's time to plant, I'm just going to plant around all of that. I'll do the Three Sisters garden, which is the squash, the beans, and the corn. And the beans go up the corn stalk. That's what supports it. And then the squash is kind of like a mulch, a living mulch for the roots to keep them cool and wet. So it's an old Indian tradition way. It's their way they planted before. It worked for them. So I've never tried it. My friend Dara and I were both talking about that the other day, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to do the Three Sisters." I said, "Good," because I mean, why not?
Yeah.
And again, it's all giving right back to the soil too. God put all this stuff on earth for a reason. It's all there, and it works better than we could ever try. So, as a result, though, I expect to have a very varied garden, lots of variety. And I am going to be a stop on the Martha's Song tour this year.
Yay.
They stuck me in there again. Thank God. So I appreciate that because, I mean, I really, really was excited and honored to be chosen. And my friend Denise Holman, she's on the board, and she came over and she says, "We really like the look of this. We capture our rainwater. We use that to water the garden. We've got 2, I think, 500-gallon tanks." Doug will correct me on that, but we're getting 1,000-gallon tanks. So we'll have several thousand gallons of water to just naturally water the garden.
Nice.
And it won't have any of the chemicals, no fluoride, no chlorine, none of that fun stuff. And I'm just grateful that I get to do this because all my gardens have always been these little tiny 2x8 raised beds. And this is like, woo, I went a little nuts, but here we are.
No, that is awesome. And when you talked about the size of the raised beds and such, one thing that I learned, because when we got here and we realized that everything grows and there's just so much water, we started planting like crazy. And one thing that before Bob was there, we had actually met another master lady at the fair, the Robertson County Fair. And she actually had come over and she had said that she had made the same mistake that we made, and that was putting a garden somewhere that was not convenient for you to walk near. And I know sometimes, like if you're a full-time person, then you put it where it's best. But like for busy people, if you're just going to have like a garden for yourself, it is really good. Like the past 2 years, we've done so well. Why? because we have to walk by our food garden on our way to get in our car every day.
Those tomatoes just yell at you, don't they?
Yeah. So if anything is wrong at all, you see it right then and there, and you can, do it. So that's one thing we didn't, we had done a big garden, in the back on the hill, which it all came up, but we couldn't go back there as often. So if you're just, a garden, just for your own food and stuff like that, and you're busy, it's really helpful if it's somewhere where you are going to see it every single day.
Right. And I'm telling you, there's so much that we can grow here. While I say that the climate is challenging compared to, I mean, when you live in a place like, say, Florida or South Texas, where it's just easy to grow, aside from the water needs, I mean, of course you need sunlight and you need a certain amount of heat and a certain amount of daylight hours, and all of that plays into it. But we have that here in Tennessee. And it's, even if you just want to get started with a small raised bed, even with my 4,000 square foot garden, I still ended up going and buying 2 raised beds to have, as you described, a kitchen garden. So it's right there. My herbs will be there. I don't know, besides rosemary, if anybody has a suggestion on rosemary, everyone I talk to says it's very difficult to grow here. I don't know what it is. And then I'm sure there are going to be 10 people that go, I don't have a problem with it at all. So,
All right, put it up in comments, guys.
Yes,
You have some
please.
rosemary tricks.
And I know that, you can get cuttings, you can get, seedlings that are already started, all of that. And there are places around here that are just annually, they are just fabulous. Paradise Produce Farms is one of them that everybody knows to go there if you want your seedlings.
And that's in Pleasant View, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's, I don't remember the name of the road.
Hedge Glen or whatever.
Yeah. And he's a super nice guy. I've never met him personally, but if I email him a question, hey, I bought a fig from you last year and I didn't plant it. What variety was it? So I know what to do with it. He writes back within an hour or two, and I'm so grateful for everything that he comes back with.
And who are they called again?
Paradise Produce
Okay, all right.
Farms. And they have a giant sale, and I think it's every Saturday and Sunday in April and May.
Yeah, that's what I'm bringing up right now because I know that I had talked about it recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so it looks like April 5th, maybe the first one here, but okay, so Saturday, April 5th, they are doing their 11th Natural Homesteader Plant Sale. So that is going to start, let's see, what time does that start? 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it is in Pleasant View. I'm going to see if I can get an address for y'all. But yes, if you go to Paradise Produce Farm on Facebook, you will find it. And so, yeah, you know that their stuff is good and
organic.
Yes.
No pesticides. He also does a ton of microgreens, which I grow at home just for myself on the kitchen all winter. So I have something that I'm growing and eating.
Okay, so actually this is 2420 Jack Teasley Road.
Jack Teasley, yes.
Okay, in Pleasant View. Okay, so that's 2420 Jack Teasley Road in Pleasant View. So you guys can look that up. That's a good little pro tip for you this morning. I guess that's Paradise Produce. And you know what? I'm going to have them on soon because, they are great people.
Excellent call.
All right, go ahead. Oh, and Doug, by the way, says, yes, they are 2 500-gallon. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, honey.
All right. Deborah Grant says, top of the morning to you.
Deborah, good morning.
All right. So we're back on what we're growing. So this year, what do people need to do? We got 20 minutes to tell people what they should or shouldn't be doing right now.
Right now, you should have your tomatoes started. I do mine on heat mats at about 85 degrees. It warms the soil, and I also have a dome, a clear dome over the top. You can buy them. They're 10 inches by 20 inches. It's a standard size tray. And for the inserts, that's what they call them. They're like little tray plugs. Mm-hmm. You can have any combination. You can have little 6 plugs. You can have little 4 plugs, 2, and depending on what you're growing. I have a standard size because I think I bought about 8,000 of them. I don't know. No, I just went a little. I bought 2 boxes.
Are you doing this in your greenhouse?
Yes. Okay. Yep. So I've got lights and I've got heat and I've got air circulation, which those are my focus right now. Broccoli and cabbage, I couldn't believe how fast that germinated. It was less than 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'll be eating a lot of broccoli this year.
Very good. Should
And
be healthy.
hopefully. The kicker though is just to get it started, and don't be afraid of failing. You know, you're gonna forget to water it. Things are gonna dry out. It's just gonna happen. You're almost, I mean, you're almost destined to have a little bit of failure. Don't be afraid of that. There's you're just going to have it. It's, you know, it's nature. It's not like you're building, you know, a house and it's just sticks and the concrete floor and it's done. And there's pretty much like one way to do it. Planting is what you plant and how you plant it is so personal. I consult constantly. I never feel like, well, I already know this. I learned this in my Master Gardener class. There's going to be something you don't know. I mean, one thing that I learned last year, because I was trying to decide, do I want to grow Romas for my spaghetti sauce, or do I want to grow San Marzanos? Well, San Marzanos in Italy are kind of like the go-to tomato. And what I always thought about paste tomatoes, which is what you use to make spaghetti sauce because it's a low water content. I always thought they were all indeterminate, meaning you have two different kinds of tomatoes. One, they flower, they fruit, they're done. And you can pull them by probably August 1st. And you can actually start another round if you really have the, if you can stand to look at a tomato by then. But then I found out last year by doing a little research that the indeterminate San Marzano might be why they grow it in Italy, because they've got such a great climate down there. It just indeterminate, meaning it doesn't have a determined, I should say predetermined amount of fruit it's going to produce. It flowers, you pick, it flowers again. You pick some more, it flowers some more, which with, you know, that just is kind of the opposite of what I've ever known about paste tomatoes. And in fact, I told Bob that, and he and I both were kind of like, it is. So that was kind of a cool thing. Side by side taste test, I still prefer the Romas. So, and they're never a disappointing plant. I mean, you have 30 to 50 tomatoes per plant, and they all come in at once. So it makes it easier to actually go and preserve them because you can just process them all and you're done.
More user friendly.
Yes.
And by the way, her tomato sauce, her spaghetti sauce is fabulous. Now, I remember you used to sell it at the Cedar Hill Farmers Market. Are you doing that again, or?
I ran out.
Okay.
I ended up making, I decided that I was just going to, in one fell swoop, I was just going to go to the end product. And the reason I grow the tomatoes and the reason I make the spaghetti sauce is to have lasagna. So I made 15 lasagnas at the onset of everything being ready, and I just did that. And so I gave them away as, you know, like a housewarming gift, or you know, my next door neighbor, Mr. John, God rest his soul, I love that man. He was also a master gardener, and he taught me a bunch of things. He passed away last October, and I was very sad, still sad, because he was such a gentle guy, but he was just always, you know, don't make it too hard. He says, you just, you know, make your hole, put some water in it with some fertilizer, and put your plant in there. And I thought, we're making it so difficult, and it really needs to be more fun. You know, the planting part shouldn't be the most fun part, or the most difficult part. You know, processing it and everything else, and seeing your fruits of your labor, literally the fruits of your labor, is the best part about gardening. And like, I don't even eat okra. I've tried, believe me, but I grow it so that I can see what the growth pattern is. And I encourage people to do that too, because even if it's something that you're not going to have, you will not believe how appreciative people are.
Oh, yes. We had, I don't know, we had like an okra.
Yeah.
Huge amount of okra. I did not eat one bite, but I gave them to my neighbor Annie, and she absolutely loves okra. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was fun to like, okay, we got more okra for Annie.
Right. And you can always, believe me, okra is a commodity around here. You can trade that for cake.
Did you say for cake?
Cake. And cupcakes. I did. I'll admit that.
Oh my goodness. So much for being healthy. Trade that okra for cake.
Well, it was, you know, no, never mind. It wasn't healthy, but it was good.
All right. So what else should they be doing right now?
This is what we consider cold weather or cool weather season crop planting right now. Peas, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and lettuces will do really well right now. And as soon as you hit just about June 2nd, well, anytime it hits 85 degrees, your lettuces, your broccolis, all of that will bolt is what they call it, and it's turning to flower. It goes from producing fruit and edible things to turning a little bit bitter and sending up a shoot of reproductive whatever that looks like, mainly flowers, and they will turn to seeds. And I save all of that. I didn't buy a whole lot of cold weather crop seeds this year because, again, learning the climate, mine all bolted. And in fact, that's a great way to introduce yourself to neighbors is when you can just grab a bunch of your stuff and, hey, it's bolted. It's good to eat right now, but another few days it's going to be really bitter and not very good. So, but we introduced ourselves to a few neighbors, and that's how we are all friends now. It's very kind of fun, you know.
Very cool.
Again, you know, people always get together with food one way or the other. So this year I'm also doing, oh gosh, I think 5, maybe 6 varieties of tomatoes. A big crop of my Romas, so I can replenish all of that. I think I'm doing 40 plants of that, which seems like a lot, but considering how fast it goes, and then when it's gone, it's gone. And unless you want to do the can thing, I make tomato paste, which is, it's like eating. You can eat it like by the spoonful. The stuff in the can, no, I won't ever buy that again. What else can you? Summer crops are more like the cantaloupes, the watermelons, cucumbers for pickling, cucumbers for salads, corn. All of that can be direct seeded. Probably as soon as May 1st. Any earlier than that, and then you can, you may have an early May storm, which could wash all that away again. So I will be waiting until probably May 16th to throw everything in the ground.
And if people have questions, they can still contact the Master Gardeners.
Yes.
Or just, in the individual things, even if you have some strange bug happening or some disease or whatever.
Yes. There's a lot of that. I mean, again, you can't. And there are solutions that you don't have to use a poison or a chemical or a systemic, which gets into your food. You can just use neem oil, which will get rid of one bug. And you can use the BT, it's called. It's a long bacillus. It's a chemical name, or scientific name. And that'll get rid of, say, the cabbage worm. I would say that's the biggest discourager, if you will, is the pest issues. Not even so much the disease, which fortunately, knock on wood, I've not had a whole lot of issues with disease, blight, any of that. It's the pests, and they're just everywhere. So my gold suggestion of the day is if you're going to plant any of the brassicas, which is your broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. Put your seed in the ground, put a net over it right away. I have a tiny little hoop set I bought for $25 on Amazon. It's got a long, probably 30-foot, very fine mesh netting, and it just stays there. Your seedlings come up, the little cabbage worms don't get in there, and you don't lose your mind and get discouraged and cry in the garden. Because it's very tough when you see something and you think, it's like when you get pregnant, you're so, anticipation is there. And then the disappointment of something going wrong or whatever. And you just think, God, no, really? So yeah, having it all come up and it's just, there's nothing like it. It's just such a good feeling of accomplishment. And, my brother Chuck, God bless him, he's like, well, you can just buy that stuff in the store, right? And I said, yeah, I can. But let me tell you what it tastes like coming straight out of the garden versus buying it in the store that's been aged for a few days. It's night and day.
And you don't know, what is on it. Even if it says something, it could be something else. You just don't know.
Yeah. Organic is a loosely thrown around term these days. And I know that I don't use any chemicals in mine. And while we are in a heavy agricultural area where they do use glyphosate around us, I don't use it on my garden. So it's limited. But
I've heard some people using like vinegar and baking soda on weeds. Do you recommend that?
5% vinegar, sure. Okay. Yeah. They say use it generously. I just live with my weeds. I mean, in the garden, I pick them out, sure, but and I mulch quite heavily. Right now, my asparagus is still under straw. My strawberries are also still under straw, but just as soon as I can, probably even end of April. April 23rd ish is about our last frost date. Although I have seen it kind of get colder past that, so I'm just not going to chance it anymore. I'll leave everything in the greenhouse where it's nice and safe and warm and happy and
Now,
growing.
some of us have several garlic going
Yes.
under our straws. So, do you want to talk about how to do that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So you, yeah, again, looking at anything and everything I can get away from buying in the store. And I thought, well, I love garlic a lot.
So good for you.
Yeah. Oh, it goes with everything. And I mean, almost everything. But yeah, so I started researching that a few years back and I decided I was going to plant, I think I planted my first year, I don't know, 75 bulbs. You just take a bulb of garlic, sorry, cloves. You take a bulb of garlic, break it apart, and put it in the ground, roughly 6 inches. I've seen a guy, I think it's Epic Gardening on YouTube, and he did a study the whole season, started with 4 inches, 6 inches, and 8 inches. Same fertilizer, same everything all year. And at the end of the whole term, the biggest bulbs were planted at 6 inches. So that's going to be my goal from that. And that's what we did with yours. And I forget how many we planted of yours, something like,
Probably like 15 or 20 something.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't take much. You only plant them a few inches apart and you just put them in the ground, you throw the straw on top and that's it. And they'll pop up and they'll pop up initially in October, November, but then as soon as it gets cold, they'll just kind of sit there. And they sit there until July. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I guess it's about time. Get your pitchfork, you put it in the ground, you pull up a bulb that used to be a clove, and you're just kind of like, you know, you hear the angels singing. Exactly. We all know that feeling. And it was so awesome. The first year, every single bulb that came up, it was almost like we were just grandstanding it. And I thought, we're going to do this again. And then I laughed because I asked a friend of mine, I said, oh, you're going to go down to the Nashville Farmers Market. Will you grab me some garlic? And he's like, yeah. And I said, how many are you planting this year? And this is the guy from Southside Drugs.
Okay.
He says, oh, like 2,000. And I think, oh my gosh, I'm such an amateur.
Oh my goodness.
I'm all proud of my 100. But this year, I scaled back this year. I think I only planted I think I've got 50 in the ground right now. But the best part about it is because I have a freeze dryer. So I make my own garlic powder. I make my own garlic salt. Garlic fermented in honey. If you ever get a cold, a sore throat, or anything,
Ooh.
it's gone the next day.
Nice.
I mean, it's so soothing and it's so antimicrobial and antiviral. So that's a great thing to have on hand. And if it's grown in your own garden, the pungent flavor of garlic that you pull out of the ground, you can also just store it to eat and have in, you know, your typical like sauces and that sort of thing. But there's nothing like homegrown garlic.
I'm excited. So
Oh,
July is when ours will be ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because what we planted was, I believe, a hardneck. I'm pretty sure we planted hardneck with you. There's a scape that comes up the center, and it's just basically this long, all of a sudden it just emerges like the Washington Monument out of your garlic, and it goes up, and it's got a little hat on it that looks like a little gnome hat, and it makes a little curly Q, and as soon as it makes that little curly Q, cut it off at the base, probably about an inch or so off of the bottom, and cut it into pieces, and I freeze dry that, and then I grind it up in a coffee grinder. So I've got garlic scape powder, and we use it. Doug uses it very sparingly all year long until the next one rolls around because there's only one scape per plant, and it's the reproductive part of the plant. So if you do feel like letting a few go, that'll turn into a cute little pom-pom, and when it dries, all your seeds are in there. So you just cut that top off once it's dry, and you put it into a bag and just shake it. And all these little black seeds will come out. And you can start garlic from seed that way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what do you guys use the scape powder for?
He puts it on his toast in the morning or whenever. It makes a very earthy garlic toast. I don't know how to describe it, but it tastes more green as opposed to just garlic, which is very pungent and garlic, you know. This is almost like a grass.
Mild?
It's milder for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, doesn't quite have that heat that garlic can have.
Okay.
But between all of the things you can make with garlic, I really kind of wish I'd grown more this year. I saved everything I grew this year, I saved from last year's crop. So I have a little bunch, the good ones that I set aside. I need to consult with Bob on this one too, but something I did this year, they got some worms into it. And I don't know if I didn't cure it right or what, but it happens.
Mhm.
So, but I was able to salvage enough to plant out this year. So I was very happy about that.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
is there anything else? We only have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
Is there anything else about freeze drying that you want to recommend?
Absolutely. Right now, our chickens, anybody that's got chickens, they're going crazy. They're all laying about an egg a day. What do you do with 10 dozen eggs? Well, I freeze dry my eggs. I take them, I scramble them, crack them into a bowl, scramble them all up, pour them into my little freeze dry trays. And it takes about 24 hours or so. But
Oh, she's got a show and tell item.
yes, so until you end up with
Oh my god.
that right there is a dozen eggs.
1 dozen raw eggs right here in this packet. That's cool.
And they last forever. I mean, this is from.
Do you put that in the freezer then, or what?
Nope, set it right on the counter or in my pantry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's got a little hole in the top, so if I ever get pegboards, which eventually I will.
Ah.
But yeah, this is probably from last spring,
Wow.
and it's just like a little powder
So
in
it's
there.
got all the nutrients and everything in it.
Yes, the only thing that's missing is the water. So you take, say, 2 tablespoons of this powder and 2 tablespoons of water. It's basically a 50-50 ratio. It's 40-60, but you just mix it with water and you make scrambled eggs, and I dare anybody to say you can taste the
Really?
difference.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should have like a little taste test thing on here on one
Yeah.
of the episodes.
Yeah, next time we'll do a little cook thing. But I freeze dry the bell peppers and jalapenos, pretty much anything. I've freeze dried my marinara, which turned out pretty well. I don't recommend doing the meat sauce, just the tomato sauce part. I have found that meat has a tendency to not rehydrate real well, but pretty much everything else does. Fruit, oh my gosh, strawberries, cantaloupe, watermelon. It's like candy.
Really?
Super healthy. My friend Amber, she feeds her kids freeze dried okra, and they love it
Oh my goodness.
because it's kind of crunchy like a Cheeto.
Ah.
Green beans, I blanch them, which is just a quick boil,
Wow.
and I put a little bit of salt and
We have 1 minute left. Can I have you do a workshop about freeze drying?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be doing some workshops. And by the way, I want to mention something, guys. Since it's spring break, I am doing some extra line dance classes. So today at noon and today at 5:30 p.m., I am doing line dance classes. So I know a lot of you, that are in town, your friends are maybe you're in Florida or something. If you're in town, this is a great opportunity, $10, all ages. And now when you go inside Crossroads, go in and go down the stairs, and that big, beautiful ballroom is where I'm doing these now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's well in the square, 600 South Main Street. Again, today at noon and 5:30, line dance class. And, I hear people go, I don't know how to line dance. I've never done it. Doesn't matter. It's just, we're basically exercising, with cool music, and making friends. So super fun way to spend St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
But anyways, I'm also looking to maybe do some, conferences down there. And I think a freeze drying demo and all this stuff would just be so awesome, because look at that, a dozen eggs in that little packet.
Yeah.
Wow.
And all winter long, our chickens definitely kind of go to rest. And so out of 10 chickens, we'll call it, I think I have 13, you're getting maybe 3 eggs a day, which is just barely enough to sustain you. So
Right.
if I'm going to make, I make egg bakes, I call them, and I throw all kinds of stuff in them like you would an omelet. I put that in the freezer. When they're producing like this, like crazy, definitely, save your eggs. Don't just give them away.
Yeah.
Okay, I give them away too, but
All right. Such awesome information. It's already 8:00, and I feel like there's so many more questions in my head. So we're going to have you back real soon.
Okay.
All right.
You got
But I really appreciate you coming in. Maureen James, she is a Master Gardener graduate, which, by the way, if y'all have not taken that yet, we highly recommend it.
absolutely. It's a welcome home program coming up too. I believe it is 6 weeks in late September, early October, all of October.
Awesome.
It's great. It's kind of a condensed version of the Master Gardener program. Really good for new residents or people that just are new gardeners. So you can talk to Bob Airy at UT Extension for that.
All right. And they do have a Facebook page as well. So the best way to get a hold of you, is that through private messenger, or is that a phone number or an email? Is there anything that you'd like to give them?
Yeah, you can email me at MME, that's like Mary Edward, 1864 at gmail.com.
Give that one more time.
mme1864 at gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I am so excited now to get going. And you know what? I need to get out there and cut those inches off my my cover crop.
Yes.
Because we haven't done that yet, but it looks so good. And this is the first time that we've had cover crop on that raised bed. So
yeah, we put that in just after the garlic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, guys, I'm going to have Gregory on. He is from the state of Tennessee Baptist Children's Home, and so they deal with all the foster homes and different things like that all throughout the state. So real interesting. And then also tomorrow at 7:30, I'm going to have Carolyn on. She also has a farm, Howerton, and she does eggs and jams and all that. She's going to be here at 7:30. Also, she is the brand new president of the Greenbrier Historical Society Museum, which, by the way, guys, they are having their huge book sale, and it has been extended. I believe it was only going to be till March 29th. I think they're extending it, but if either way, you guys got to get over to that in Greenbrier because you can get some great deals on books. And what I love is they have all their books are in, just very organized stacks. Like I have some friends that only like Amish novels, and so it's like, okay, this is that all by author. They're lined up. So if you just have a few minutes, just run in there, grab what you need. It's usually $1 a book. And really great stuff. So that's our guests for tomorrow. I know that you guys are going to love that. And like I said, we got some more first-time guests coming in. Actually, tomorrow, both of them are first-time guests as well. Anyways, you have been listening to Lee Marie, and I am filling in for U-Turn Laverne all week because she is on spring break, and you guys all know that she is a high school teacher now, so she needs that spring break more than I do. Anyways, Maureen, James, thank you so much for joining us. So much great knowledge.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
We're going to have you back soon. Y'all have been listening to 1100 WSGI. Make it a great day.